Mm. Right, morning. Welcome everybody. UK chats. We're up just past 8 a.m. in the UK this morning. I think we've already had our South African chat this morning, and we've had a new visitor from Chicago, Illinois, coming into that one midnight her time. So some people are joining us at interesting hours and from interesting places. So if you haven't joined us, get on board, join us, and come for the ride. We've also got USA chats this afternoon. GMT for Trevor, especially. We were speaking about GMT. So GMT 2 p.m., GMT +2, 4 p.m., Central Time 8 a.m. And any other convoluted extrapolation of world time you care to pick on, you can work out which one that is to suit you. Yeah. So there's actually something on that device that you've got in your hand, Trevor, called World Clock. So if you pull that up and you can put in London and you can put in Chicago and you can put in Johannesburg, and it'll tell you what the relative times are without you needing to do any kind of calculations. But you've got to post it. You've got to post it through your letterbox and then pass it through your fax, and then it might start talking to you. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about at all today. So the topic for discussion, excuse me, topic for discussion this morning is understanding your personal values. So Kelvin, I think this is one that's right up your alley, if I'm not mistaken. So personal values, what are they? Do you have them? How do you work out what they are? And do you stick to them, I suppose, is some of the questions around personal values, but I'm sure you've got some other thoughts and ideas around that one as well. So Kelvin, I'm going to bounce straight across to you.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you. Personal values, it's an interesting subject, especially because for me, I didn't understand my values until I started growing. In other words, maturing. They say sometimes age comes alone, age doesn't come in maturity. So at a certain point in my life, when I began to experience maturity of being a man and taking up responsibilities, then my personal values became real, became a question of what are your values? What do you really want? Especially when I was dedicating my time working in a firm I didn't enjoy. And I suddenly realized I could do more. I could create a vision for myself. I could have something that I want to create, something I want to do, someone that is in line with me. And when I'm looking for someone that is in line with me, the question that came into my mind is, who are you? Who's Kelvin? What am I doing? What do you really want? What are your values? And I must say that environment has a powerful play in your definition of value or personal value, or realizing your values. And so for me, for a very long time, my environment didn't give me what I was looking for. And I didn't even think I had a problem. I didn't think I had an issue. And the issue was, I didn't know what I want, who I was, or my personal identity. And so I was lost in the crowd. I was going through all that until I had the eureka moment when I wanted to create something different for myself. And then again, the values came in. Until today, I'm still formulating my values. I'm still going through and taking some out and adding some more in, taking some more out, adding some more in. And again, I'm refining myself. And so what are my, what are personal values? I think personal values comes down again to us evolving. As we evolve, our values change. Some things that we entertain, we no longer entertain. Something that gives us a lot of joy no longer gives us a lot of joy. When I watch movies now, I'm always looking for movies that talk about biographies of people who have made an impact, who have made a difference. And so again, that's coming back again to my values. When I was young, I was watching all the action movies, RoboCops. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with all of that. But again, as I'm becoming more and more aware of the brevity of time, the brevity of life, I'm beginning to take some time to evaluate where I am. And I think personal values are a good thing. And back to your question again, personal values again is knowing yourself and accepting that this is who you are, and giving yourself the ability to change, to adapt, to move on, to stop what's not giving you any more value again, and more just being able to grow. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Evolve as you evolve, your values change, and personal values are very crucial. They're very crucial to what we take on board, what we entertain, what we commit ourselves to, and how we grow as human beings. In fact, in the personal development field, having a value, personal value, it's like the coreness of who you are and what you bring in, and how you can also add values to other people's lives. I don't know if I've answered your question, but I think I've just been rambling about about my own journey to self-actualization, or should we call it self-realization? And yeah.
Well, I think that's for me one of the fundamental tenets of this whole thing, because unfortunately, I think too many people exist through other people's values. You spoke about environment. I think environment has a massive role to play when we're growing up. Your parents, the way they behave or don't behave or misbehave, or whatever. Your peers, the people you mix with at school and socially. All of those things have an influence until you become conscious.
Yeah.
And I think that's you spoke about sort of waking up and realizing you weren't happy where you were. You started to become conscious at that point in time. You then started to examine what it is that is actually important to me. And once a person starts on that journey, I think they start bringing an element of personalization into their value system until that point. And some people never wake up. Unfortunately, I think there are too many people out there who go through life, existing on the values that have been imparted to them, and never actually challenged them or interpreted them or tested them even. I think that's for me a real key to understanding personal values is they've got to become conscious. They've got to be something, preferably that you've written down a few times and examined and tested and tried out, and one of the questions that I've had asked of me a couple of times, are you prepared to die for that value? There's a challenge for you. So, look at your values. It's something you're prepared to actually take to the point of saying, no, that's it. This so far and no further. And then you come to the evolution of values, as you spoke earlier. As time goes, some of those values may change. And speaking of values changing, well, we have to get across to Ed on that one, because I know over his life a couple of his basic values have changed. So, Ed, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was interesting listening to Kelvin talk about early on he was with the crowd, because we had that this morning in our discussion. Trevor was talking about the fact that kind of we rebel against maybe our parents' values, and we grow our hair long and we wear jeans, but we're doing exactly the same as what everyone else is doing. So it takes some time to find our own personal values. And I think there are some values that are binary. They either are or aren't. For example, one of my values is fidelity. I was always faithful to my wife. But does that end once we got divorced or what? I don't know. But that's definitely a binary value. And I think also whether you believe in God or not is a binary value. Whether you actually follow the words of whatever your scriptures are, which are people's interpretation of what God meant, whichever God you follow, well, that's a different matter as to how much you live those values. And certainly I know plenty of Christians who I don't think do live by those values, but that's another point. And then I think there are very few other things that are binary. I believe in being honest, but I lied to my father when he had cancer and we didn't tell him because he'd worry. I lied to my children about the existence of a certain guy that has a beard and a red coat that appears once a year. I lied to my children about the tooth fairy. And perhaps when my wife said, does my bum look big in this? I might have not told the entire truth. So I think, there's very few values that are binary. And yeah, you're right. I used to be a meat eater. I'm now a card carrying vegan, and hug trees. And that to me now is a very, very important value. I will never go back on that. However, it does become complicated. The influenza vaccine for the over 65s contains fish additive. It actually comes from the liver of a shark, because it's designed to boost the immune system, because they don't think the immune system of the over 65 is particularly strong. When the coronavirus vaccine came out, I was really relieved to see that it hasn't got any animal additives, because that would have been a real dilemma for me. You talk about, would I die for my belief? Well, I might have had to make a choice there to have the vaccine or not have the vaccine. I don't have the flu vaccine because of the animal products in it. So yeah, it's very difficult to live your values, because it's a changing world, isn't it? And to lie in some circumstances is okay. To lie in other circumstances isn't okay. And it's interesting, isn't it? We expect people, just because they've sworn an oath, either on the Bible or affirmed if they're not religious, they're going to tell the truth in court. But outside court, they can lie like no one's business. But I do try and live my values. I'm a vegan, and I try and live that. And it's a journey, it's not a destination. I believe in honesty. I believe in lifting people up, not putting them down. I try very hard to not put people down, but to lift them up. I believe in opportunity for everyone. So I give everyone an equal opportunity. I know Trevor believes the same. He gives them no opportunity until they prove themselves. I'm the other way around. And also I believe in good environmental practices. I believe in living within the planet's resources. But that's very, very hard to do. I'm on here, I'm consuming resources. I'm clothed, where do you get that balance? So values is a very, very difficult path to walk. But I think there are some things that you just don't go belong. Thou shalt not kill. I wouldn't kill anyone, but if I drove a car and I could kill someone. I know some Buddhists won't eat certain fruits because they might have animals in them. I don't go that far. I'll take an apple off a tree and eat it. It might have a maggot in it. So very difficult to come up with anything that says, actually, this is the line and I will not cross it. But honesty, integrity, fidelity, and hugging trees, those are my values.
Right, thanks, Ed. Yeah, Trevor, does your apple have any worms in it?
Yeah, well, it just shows you one person's values, i.e. meat is another's poison. So I went and had a quick look at this definition of value. And I think number one, the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. In other words, your personal value as an individual. And then the second one is the principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. And I believe that's what Kelvin and Edward have really focused upon. I'm interested in the first. And that is that I believe we're at a time in our society where the resources and technologies that we have that have given us so much for so little, almost for free, that information is coming to us all for free, that I think there's a subliminal impact in our minds that is reducing our personal value and our personal net worth. And I think it transpires from the internet having come out, people producing so much content, and the whole marketing strategy of gathering large databases has been founded upon giving away all your IP for free. And that has made it extremely difficult for people to understand how they can actually command a value for their self-worth and their IP. So that's my mind right at the moment, is in trying to get people to remember who they are, remember how much worth you have to offer to society, and re-rate your value in terms of what you require to bring in terms of revenue, what you require to feed your family, to survive. So I'm very much focused on that. And I do realize in terms of number two, where Ed and Kelvin focused on, that people's values may completely differ. There are some people that absolutely love this time period where they can just go out and they can volunteer all their time and they don't need money. I tend to differ on that. I think many people are extremely unhappy because they don't have the things that can provide them with a real basic of Maslow's hierarchy, looking after themselves, getting a nice home, roof over their heads, and perhaps moving on up the chain to self-actualization. So I'm still a believer in all of that. And that's why I'm looking to focus on this word value, because there are two different connotations that you can put to this word value. And I think in terms of our personal value and net worth, and how we make certain that we are not allowing technology, social media to undermine our net worth or our self-worth.
Okay, interesting twist. I think we were talking about values as opposed to value. Is there a difference? So personal values as opposed to personal or intrinsic value. But I think they're closely tied, aren't they? I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you can't have, you're unlikely, let me put it that way, to have intrinsic value if you don't value yourself, value your person, value your integrity. And I think that's one of the challenges that we see in this modern world, is the erosion of personal value. And unfortunately, I think the media, social media, movies, sitcoms, all those sorts of things drive in that direction a lot of the time. I mean, Ed spoke about, you know, putting people down, demeaning people, you know, is one of the things he won't do. And I think so often you see in these kinds of widely spread media that an element of that is about demeaning an individual, and putting people down, and creating a situation where people will laugh at them and not with them. And I think that for me is a big challenge with a lot of modern media, is that erosion of personal value, and it's almost subliminal in many cases. I think, you know, although it might appear overt when you look at it with a different set of glasses on, but you know, it's pervasive in certain circles, and I certainly think a lot of this sort of popular sitcoms and soap operas and things like that that are coming out of places like Hollywood and others are doing that on a continual basis. If you sit back and actually examine what is being said and how it's being said in these environments. So it becomes a big challenge for people, and I think it's an interesting challenge, especially for the people growing up in this modern world today. I mean, you know, if you look at myself and Ed and Trevor and then Kelvin, I'm going to exclude you from this group because I think you've got a few years to catch up on us here. But we grew up in a very, very different world to, you know, the one that you know, youngsters and teenagers are growing up in today. You know, Trevor spoke about all this information coming at us. How much of it is actually quality? You know, how much of it is actually value adding information? And even if there is a lot of that kind of information, how much airtime is it actually getting in the greater scheme of things? And then if you really look at things that go viral, for example, and on some of the social media platforms, 99% of them are highly negative. They don't actually add value. They are sensationalist. It falls in line with, you know, what happened in the newspapers, and you know, some people still get newspapers. I don't know. I haven't got one for over 25 years. But you know, sensationalist headlines are the ones that sell the copy, and unfortunately, that doesn't seem to have changed. And you know, whilst if you are prepared to take the time and you understand what you're looking for, the internet is an amazing source of great value. But you need to be discerning and B, have a great understanding of what is actually important to you to actually filter out the rubbish. And unfortunately, I think there's just too much of that. So yeah, I think it comes back to what I was saying at the top, and that is, you know, it's becoming conscious. It's for me, it's becoming aware of these things. And you know, Kelvin, you spoke about evolving and maturing, and sometimes, you know, maturing happens on its own and without any additives. But you know, sometimes you know, if you can gain some knowledge and some wisdom in the process and some insight, I think your values can develop nicely and they become yours. And I think as a sort of last word, you know, I think for me, what's really important about personal values is that you take ownership of them, that they are yours. And you have determined that they are yours and not those that have come from your leaders or your parents or your teachers or your peers. That you've taken that decision that this is a value that I'm prepared to stand by. Maybe not die for, Ed, but at least to stand for and be firm. And yes, they may change over time as new information appears and new ideas come up. But if you haven't examined them in the first place, you're actually not in a position to change them. All you are in a position to do is just simply absorb somebody else's value again. So be true to yourself, understand your values. I think that's the bottom line for me. So that was an amazingly quick 30 minutes. Bottom of the hour already, flown past. Great discussion. So Wisdom Chats UK next week. Where do we go from personal values? Any topics anyone wants to throw into the pot for next week? Kelvin? Money.
What do we mean by
everyone's money?
What's money mean to us?
What's money mean to us? Okay. So is there any value in that discussion? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So money. Yeah, must be funny in a rich man's world. Okay. Great stuff. Thanks, folks.
Can I change it?
Can you change it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can swap your dollars for euros for rand if you really want to go the wrong way.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
I'm serious. Money is superb.
If you enjoy roller coasters, go for Bitcoin.
All right, money is good.
Right. Have a great day further. Join us at 2 p.m. GMT time if you can, 4 p.m. South African time if you don't understand 2 p.m. GMT, and or 8 a.m. Central time if you're in America. We're back online in a few hours from now. Otherwise, have a great one, and we'll see you next week. And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. Nigeria Summit.
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Be there. Be there. Okay, have a good one, guys.
All right. Cheers. Bye.